Well, hey, Dave Melenda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you. I have this question that try to find a cool question. This one, if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening and you answer no to this question, then you don't need to listen to the rest of this podcast, okay? So the question is, do you want your sales teams to up their bottom line numbers by at least 30% in 90 days? Right. So I'm like, man, that's a pretty bold statement. So I got to find out who shared that. So I'm honored to be hanging out with Paul Ross today. How are you, sir?
Hello. And that's not only can I do that, but you don't pay me up front. If I don't do it, I don't get paid.
Oh my gosh. There you go. There you go. Cool. Well, you're author of a book called Subtle Words That Sell. So honored to be hanging out with a fellow author. Look at that. The guy's even on the front cover. Love it. So fill us in on what in the world is your book about, Subtle Words That Sell. Give us a kind of a...
Sure. There are a few basic principles that my teachings revolve around. First and foremost, what I want to get across to your listenership and viewership, I don't know if we're on video and audio.
Well, both.
Both. Great. You can see how handsome we both are. The first concept I want people to understand is that our most fundamental decisions, the most important decisions we make, are made outside of our conscious awareness. They're made unconsciously or subconsciously. I use the terms interchangeably because I'm a hypnotist. It really doesn't matter. Our most important decisions are made on the subconscious or unconscious level. They're not made rationally. Think about this. When you fell in love with someone, did you really think it through and think, I think I'm going to fall in love with my significant other because I like this and that? Or was it something else bubbling underneath on the subconscious level? Did you just find yourself falling in love? Well, what does it mean to find yourself doing something? Does it mean you consciously, rationally thought it out? Or does it mean it just happened and you were the observer? There's another example in human behavior. Do you ever just find yourself looking in your refrigerator and not even remembering what it was you went to look for?
Sure.
Have you ever been in a situation at a party, some social situation, someone tells you their name and you found yourself forgetting it? All these things happen unconsciously. So we need to get to the subconscious mind, which brings up the next understanding, which is crucial. Sure. I teach all my VIP clients this, is they need to wrap their heads around this. Dave, you're never selling your product or service. You're always selling decisions and good feelings about decisions, which ties right back to what I just said. So those things being true, the conclusion is you need to connect with people on the subconscious level. That's where they make their decisions. And so my claim is that you can skip past all the traditional stuff that you've been taught, all the shelf, all the stuff you get from off the shelf that says it takes 30 minutes to establish rapport and know, trust, and like. It's not true, or it's incomplete. I am batshit crazy with my teachings. I don't expect people to believe me. That's why I give away a lot for free, because they have to see first.
Sure. So when you say, like the feature and benefit selling that a lot of people are familiar with, I'm assuming that kind of goes by the wayside in some of the stuff that you're talking about.
It's secondary. Let me unpack this for you. I teach my clients, and the first thing I think of, and what I always teach, is not how can I prep my marketing presentation so it shows the benefits and my unique selling proposition. Those things are important, but that's not what should come first. The first thing I think is, what states of consciousness do I want my prospects or audience to be in so that anything else I send them gets filtered through that? May I use a metaphor?
Sure.
So let's say, and this is not a trick question, I have a sheet of gold foil and I have a sheet of cardboard, and I want to conduct a current of electricity. Which one of those things, the sheet of cardboard or the sheet of gold foil, is going to conduct that electricity? And it's not a trick question.
I would assume the gold foil, but I'm not an electrician.
No, it's the gold foil. We all know this instinctively. So think of the electricity as your marketing message, your unique value proposition, the benefits. That's the electricity. Think of the gold foil or the cardboard as the states of mind you want your prospect in. Allow me to unpack that with smaller detail. Do you want your prospects in the state of mind, the cardboard states of being distracted, of being cynical, of not trusting you, but even more importantly, not trusting themselves? Because you see, Dave, nowadays it's not enough to get know, like, and trust. Those are necessary, but they're not sufficient. Nowadays, you've got to get the prospect to convince themselves that they can trust themselves to make a good decision. It's an entirely new layer that you have to do.
Okay.
The secondary problem is, so I want to ask, how can I rapidly, naturally, easily, almost instantaneously create those states of being focused on me, of wanting to believe me, of trusting themselves? Now, I said focused on me. This is something that sales trainings don't teach you. They need to be updated for the modern age, and I'll show you why. For those of you who are only listening to the podcast, I'm holding up my iPhone. This smart device, I don't know how smart it is in some respects, because Siri's an idiot. This device is one of the most destructive things, one of the biggest blocks to you making a sale, because social media and these devices have seriously degraded our ability to pay attention. How many times have you, and I'll ask your audience, and I'll ask you, how many times in the last 24 hours have you scrolled through your phone?
Sure.
Right? It's so much fun you count it. Back when, I'm no spring chicken. Back when I was a kid, we didn't have Instagram. We had Telegram. Har, 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 har. Okay, but now we have Instagram. We have Facebook Instant Messenger. We have WhatsApp, Twitter, Tinder. Not that I would ever have to go on Tinder. Just look at this. So the average attention span has gone down to like 30 seconds.
Sure.
I remember when YouTube first got going, I think it was 2006, and the ads were 90 seconds long. Can you imagine watching YouTube or anything with a 90-second ad?
Yeah.
So you've got to get your prospects focused on you immediately. And you can't do that through conventional means.
Wow. So when you talk about state of consciousness, because that's probably foreign to a lot of people, it's foreign to me. So how do you unpack that where in a understanding that a simple guy like me can understand what you're saying?
I don't think you're a simple guy. Well, I think you're a direct guy, but I don't think you're simple in the sense of being, well, okay. Well, I'll accept your definitions of it. So what I mean is this: a state of consciousness is a state like focus, being profoundly focused on me.
Okay.
That is a state of consciousness. Another one would be childlike trust, where they trust you. I'll give you an example. If I were to do a presentation, I wouldn't say, here's my marketing plan before I present it. I just want to encourage you to understand that we've been successful and we've sold these many homes and this blah, 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 blah. So that's fact-based selling. Sure. Instead, I would say, before we begin this exploration together today of our marketing plan, I just want to invite you to please ask the questions that naturally arise when a great decision is being made. Now, that's a big mouthful, but let's unpack it. I said, before we is what I call an implied relationship word, not before but before we explore. Explore is a really powerful hypnotic word. Think about this. For every exploration, there must be a leader. And for every leader, there must be a
follower.
Exactly. So it implies, as soon as they accept that word on the unconscious level, it implies that they are your follower. I'm not saying directly, you will be my follower with my hypnotic powers. I'm using the power of suggestion and implication. So before we begin our, not my, but our, it's another implied relationship word, exploration together. Together, that implies a relationship. Before we begin our exploration together today of our marketing plan, I just want to invite you. Look at that word invite. What does invite imply? Invite, when I extend an invitation, I'm not trying to make you do anything. I'm offering an opportunity.
Sure.
You get it?
Yep.
I invite you to please share the questions, not ask the questions, share the questions. When we ask someone something, I'm doing something to someone. But when I say share, that implies relationship. Share the questions that naturally arise when a great decision is being made. Now, Dave, did I say a great decision to buy from me today is being made?
Nope.
Why not?
Because we don't know if we're going to buy today.
That's right. And it's too pushy. But when I say a great decision is being made, it's vague. It has, I'm not saying who's making the decision, when it's being made, why it's being made, what the decision is. Now, here's a principle. Whatever you can get your prospect to imagine for themselves will be perceived as being their own thought, and they will not resist it. So when you say something vague, like a great decision is being made, the unconscious mind, this is a hypnotic principle. I've been a hypnotist for over 30 years. The unconscious mind does what we call in hypnosis a transderivational search. Forget all what that jargon. All it means is it will dive down very deep into a trance state, and it will search for all possible meanings and come up with the one that applies in that context. So the prospect in the back of their mind, in their unconscious mind, thinks, oh, I'm going to make a great decision today.
So can I ask you something, Paul? Do we say something like, can we explore this together? Is that a question where you're asking for permission early in a sales journey?
I would say before we explore this together.
Okay.
Because before is what we call a presupposition of time. When I say, you know, Dave, before you come to the conclusion, for all of your own reasons, that I'm a great guest, I'm not sure which of the ways you'll find yourself inviting me to come back on your show. But as that's taking place, I just want to say I'm so grateful to be able to share fantastic value with you and your audience.
So
now,
then,
do you hear
it's a statement rather than a question, then, if I'm understanding you right.
An embedded statement. It's a series of embedded suggestions. I didn't say, notice the implication of what I said. I implied that I'm sharing great value, which I am, but I also gave you suggestions. I said, I don't know which of the ways you'll find yourself thinking, yeah, I'd like to have Paul back on the show again. When I said, I don't know which of the ways, what does that imply? It implies there'll be at least one way that you'll come to that conclusion. Okay. So this is very slippery, but at the same time, it's offering genuine value. And I understand for your viewership and audience that this is a lot. I'm going through a lot of language in here. It's why I offer the Rapid Sales Accelerator. We'll talk about that later, that you can get free, that unpacks all of this very slowly.
So you talk about 4 words like that you can use within the first minute of your sales presentation to get that immediate bond and rapport. I mean, is explore, invite, share, are those part of that?
Yes, well, those are the words. We share, before we explore, our, together, share. Those are 5 words I call implied relationship words. They're implying a relationship within the first under 60 seconds, which means what? It means you get past the focus barrier because you've already gotten them believing that they're in a relationship with you, and you don't have to worry about keeping them focused on you in that regard. All the stuff, the old tricks about building rapport, well, you have to match and mirror their body posture and all that. That goes out the window. You don't have to bother with that. I know people are saying bullshit, 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 but I'm telling you, try this stuff for free and you'll see the results.
And so because that's a hard, again, I think about the average entrepreneur listening, Paul, that's been doing it the same way for 30 years, right? 20 years, whatever, and all of a sudden here comes this opposing viewpoint, we'll call it, or something that in their mind doesn't seem to work. How do you, I mean, is it just a matter of trying it and then watching the
Here's my
difference?
challenge. Here's my challenge. And this is why I give away lots of free stuff, because this is so crazy. Just take a little bit of this stuff and put it into your existing sales process. I don't create sales processes for my VIP clients. They have to be already successful. So take your already successful sales process, keep your DNA, so to speak, and just add in these little mind viruses, just the little pieces.
Sure.
Use 10 to 15% of what I teach. Keep careful track of your numbers. Track your numbers from day 1 to day 30, day 30 to day 60, and each month apply 2 or 3 of the tools. And I'll speak into one more thing you said.
Yeah.
I learned this from my healing practice. It's the very ways of thinking, feeling, acting, and understanding that stand so far outside of what we're used to doing that hold the potential of bringing us results that are so far beyond what we're used to enjoying. Now, that implies that you do more than step out of your comfort zone. That's true. You have to step outside of your conceptual zone. You have to step outside of the box of how you've been thinking to get radically different ways of getting results. Now, I was able to come to this, Dave, and I don't put this in my biography because I like to spring it on the host. I started out, I don't know, can you see, let me angle this without ruining my camera. Can you see that picture over my shoulder there?
Yep. Newspaper article.
Yeah, do you recognize who that is?
It looks like Tom Cruise.
It is indeed Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise played me in a movie. Tom Cruise played me in the movie Magnolia. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, but he played an obnoxious seduction and pickup guru. I started out my career 30 years ago as a trainer and teacher of pickup. And through learning, this is really outrageous, through learning how to transform guys who are 30, 40 years old and never had a date in their life, I learned how to transform mindset, but I also learned how to teach them to communicate in ways that were radically different, that were emotionally attractive. And so I had to learn to think from outside the box. And I brought those ways of thinking, totally radically different, batshit ways of thinking, into the sales process.
Well, and we talk a lot about the comfort zone because there's people sitting right now in their comfort zone as they're listening to this, broadcast, and they are wanting to get into that learning zone and the growth zone, but yet there's this thing in between, the fear zone, where they're making excuses. I mean, I'm guessing right now people have already started to make excuses. Well, this won't work for me. This won't work for my product. You don't know my company. You don't know my customer, right? So
Can I address that?
how do you help people through that fear zone to get to the learning and the growth zone?
Yeah, fantastic question. I address this in my free stuff and also when I work with my highly successful clients. And you'd be surprised how many people who are doing 7 and 8 figures who I coach and train who still have imposter syndrome and mindset stuff, or they're complacent where they're. The first thing I teach them is to be mindful and to be okay with all of those fears. They're just thoughts. So I have some specific techniques to show them how to not buy into them on the one hand, and to not suppress them either. I have some mindfulness techniques I developed for my guys who are 40, 50 years old and never even been kissed. You can imagine the fear they had. But the second thing I teach my students and my clients and whoever it is who will pay my egregious fee is confusion, uncertainty, and the unknown are my joyous gateways to my clarity, my focus, my purpose, my vision, my joyous achievement of my amazing and satisfying life. So I teach them to welcome confusion. The biggest problem, I think, is not just fear, it's confusion. People don't like to be confused. People would rather kill each other than be confused about their beliefs.
Sure.
So I have some specific techniques to deal with confusion. Confusion, I learned from one of the greatest teachers in my life, my meditation teacher, taught that for the adult human being, Confusion in the mind is as bad as pain in the body. It's how we keep our very identity together. However, confusion can be a useful technique. I teach that it can be utterly, completely powerful to confuse your prospect at the right time. In fact, you must confuse your prospect at some point in the sale.
Well, let's unpack that after we take this quick break.
All right.
Awesome. We're back. So fill us in on that, because confusion in sales, a lot of times in the traditional model, Paul, is really more of a negative, and I'm hearing it as you using it either as a tool or a positive. So kind of shed some light on that if you could for us.
Absolutely, because again, it's batshit crazy, but here we go. This comes in when you're destroying objections. This is my favorite thing to teach in my free stuff that I give away. There's a module on annihilating objections. I want to create moments of confusion. One of the most common objections you'll hear is, I need more time to think it over. Have you ever heard that one?
Yep, absolutely.
Now, what are traditional ways of responding? Hey, I understand. Can I ask, what is it you need to think over? That's okay, but they're used to hearing it. They've heard it a million times before. And one of the principles I'll teach you, the audience, is tactics identified or tactics disarmed. If they already have had the tactic thrown their way, they've already disarmed it. You have to do something new and different. So if you say, let's role play, just say, I need more time to think it over. Just say it.
I need more time to think it over.
Dave, I understand. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Have you ever taken a long time to think something over and it still turned out to be a terrible decision?
Sure.
Maybe it's not about time, but about the clarity you need to recognize a great decision is being made. So thinking about it like that, let's get out on the table what it is you need to understand and move forward today.
Sure.
Do you hear the suggestions? So
Sure.
all of a sudden I say, it's called a counter example. When I say, have you ever taken a long time to think something over and it still turned out to be a horrible decision? There's a moment of shock. It creates a mind stutter. I call it a mind stutter.
Okay.
And there's a moment of confusion. And in that moment of confusion, two things happen. The objection goes away. You literally give them objection amnesia. And the second thing is you create a window of suggestion through which you can lead that prospect now. And the third thing you get to do, you get to redefine the meaning of that hesitation as being a need for clarity. It's just that they need to be clear.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
it
that's
does.
An example where you need.
Okay. I'm assuming though, because we built trust early on with your words, that it's easier to open up to you or to a sales professional and unpack that than if there was no trust. Because if I didn't trust you, that would be a hard situation, correct?
Of course. And my I almost said argument. My presentation to you is that trust can be created extraordinarily quickly. It can be created deeply in the unconscious level. It can be created broadly across multiple contexts. And most importantly, you get the prospect to trust themselves. I'll say it again and again and again. Know, like, and trust is not enough. You have to get it, but it's not enough. You have to get the prospect to trust themselves. If they don't trust themselves, and if they can't focus on your proposition, all the traditional sales stuff is losing its impact. If you're listening to me and you're working harder and harder to move the needle less and less, it's not your fault. You are not to blame. If you're not moving the needle in your business and you're doing your very best and your team is humming along, because again, I only work with people already doing 7 or 8 figures. If you're doing that and you're not moving the needle, it's not your fault. It's that the traditional sales techniques don't work as well. They've been attrited because people don't have the focus they used to have, and they don't trust themselves. If you're not getting your prospect to focus on you very deeply, I can teach you how to do it on a hypnotic level. I know that sounds crazy. And if you're not getting them to trust themselves, your sales process will still work, or you wouldn't be doing your 7 or 8 figures, but you're leaving a huge amount of money on the table that you're not putting into your vault.
Wow, that's interesting. And I'm guessing there are people now that are saying that still isn't going to work. So I'm just encouraging the people listening to keep that wall down just long enough for us to finish this
Can I give
conversation.
you a shocking answer, Dave?
Yeah,
A shocking answer, and it's going to sound arrogant. Those people are not the people I work with. I only work with people who are already doing 7 or 8 figures. They will pay my egregious fee. They don't pay me anything up front. They only pay me after I get the results. And the third thing is, I'll only work with people who have open minds, who are sort of what I call cutting edgers. They like it. They're attracted to ideas that are foreign. They're what in the world of technology, you would call them early adapters. I sound really arrogant right now, but I just don't want to waste other people's time or mine.
Sure.
So yes, it's true. I can teach you how to get past that, but I prefer to work with people who already have that mindset. This is different. This is new. Of course I'm going to do it.
So what about the results piece? Because do you help if I came to you and said, I want results, but I wasn't clear, I didn't have clarity on what that result meant. Do you help?
I would talk to you. What we would do is, first of all, I look at your application, because I work with 3 clients a quarter, because the work that I have to do so much, it's pretty much almost done for you. I would look at the application, and then what I do is I have a conversation and I vet them. I say, what are you doing? What is your process? What are you using? But more importantly, it's my way of sussing out, are they willing to take on a completely different way of doing things? Because if they don't, then great. I give them some tips that they can use for free, see some nice sales, and we part as friends. But the thing is I'll say it again, it's the very ways of thinking, feeling, act. No, strike that. I'll give you a different thing. Let's use Columbus. Columbus wanted to sail and discover whatever he wanted to discover. What did they tell Columbus would happen if he kept sailing the way he wanted to?
The earth.
He didn't fall off the edge of the earth. He discovered a new country, and he earned the right to write his own map. And you're not going to sail off the edge of the earth. You're just going to sail off your old map, and I'll help you create and navigate a new one and have a new country that you can explore. Because you won't do it with your old map. Not to say you're not doing really, really well. I get it. But you won't, if you keep sailing on that old map, you're just sailing around in circles. The wind may be at your back, your ship may be going really well, and you may be trucking along, sailing along, but you're not going to discover a new country. I say, let me help you take the wheel in a different way, give you a different map, and kick you in the butt when you're not following me.
And I just want to confirm, Paul, so for people listening, if they have a sales system, a process that they're using in their current profession, you kind of lay yours on top of theirs.
I layered it on top, but they have to already be successful, because I put so much work into this, and I have so many people clamoring for my attention. I mean no disrespect. I have recorded products for people who are not at that level, so they can still benefit. But I'm not going to change your sales process. I don't do that.
Yeah.
You have to have one in place. I just teach you how to inject this stuff. I rewrite, if you go to Paul Roth's book and grab my Rapid Sales Accelerator, there's a testimonial from someone. I increased his sales by 646% in 90 days. That sounds like utter bullshit. Watch the video. You'll see I'm telling the truth. So, but he had that mindset. He was willing to take me on and let me rewrite his emails, let me rewrite his sales scripts, let me do all that stuff, and then train his team to be better closers using my teaching. But they had to open up. I vetted him, and I got that he was willing to take on a different mindset.
Sure. So I have a question. So if you are talking to a sales leader who runs a team, is responsible for a sales team, multiple sales teams, how do you get buy-in on that team? Because I got to believe Paul, that there are going to be certain people on that team that are going to just walk in with resistance. If you get buy-in from the leader, but you don't get buy-in from the team, what would happen in that situation?
Well, first of all, I teach the leader some different leadership skills. I teach the leader how to use this hypnotic selling on, I'm just going to say it, on his team. That's number one.
Sure.
But number two, I have a way of talking to the team in a way where they suddenly find their mind more open than it was before.
Okay.
Do you understand? I have a way of selling the sales team that they need to sell in a different way. I use those same hypnotic techniques. People have weird ideas about hypnosis, but it works. And just think of it as a way of speaking the language of the unconscious mind. Everybody dreams at night. Those dreams come from the unconscious. And so you asked a good question. First of all, I will take that sales manager, that sales leader, teach him some hypnotic techniques to be a better leader to his team so he can sell them. And then when I go in and I start teaching them, I teach in a very funny way, and I drop in suggestions in the middle of it. I'm sort of giving away my secret sauce. And again, the biggest promise is this: you don't pay me up front. You do not pay me. I get a percentage of the difference, but you don't pay me. And if I can't get you the results, I work with you for another month for free. And after that, bye-bye.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Hey, as we start to land today on this, I have a question. Are there words that, we talked about words that we should use, words that are going to be more effective in this? Are there words that we need to stay away from in our sales process that you've experienced?
Really good. That's a really good question. I would say words like, so if I want to steer away from the word I, me, those, or but. But when you say to someone, I understand your concern, but they want you to butt out. Okay. Never use if you can avoid it, use the word, avoid using the word but.
Okay.
I prefer using the word and. So if someone has a disagreement with me, a real vehement disagreement, I'll say, I understand what you're saying, and here might be a different way for you to find yourself thinking about it.
Sure.
Did you hear that suggestion?
Absolutely.
Find yourself thinking about it. Don't use the word but. Avoid as much of the word I, because don't make it about you. This is a traditional sales thing that is true. With them, what's in it for me?
Yep. Wow. Okay.
Those are words I would avoid.
And so you replace and for but, and you replace we and us, I'm assuming, for the I and the me. Is that kind of how we're
yes.
Words
and the word our, not my, but our.
Okay, gotcha. Perfect. That's awesome. So Paul, one last question, I'm gonna let you go. What would your tip of the day be for somebody listening? Maybe it's something that we covered, but somebody really needs the word from you right now. So what
Here it is. Here it is. This is going to sound, well, two things. The tip of the day is, keep in mind, you're never selling your product or service. You're always selling decisions and good feelings about decisions. That's number one. And number two, understand that sales is actually a heroic thing. And here's what I mean. Sales is not just about getting your ideas into your prospect's mind. It's about expanding their mind to include new possibilities. New beliefs about what they can have, what they can do, and what they deserve. When you expand your prospect's mind, that's a heroic thing to do. That's a healing thing to do. Sure. When you get people past their limiting beliefs about what they deserve, what they can enjoy, what's possible for them, that's a healing thing. That's a heroic thing. So go out today and say to yourself, I'm a sales healer, I'm a sales hero. Because when you do it my way, that's what you become. You become a sales healer and a sales hero. And I want everyone out there that's a bad word too. I invite everyone out there in whatever ways you can find yourself letting that sink into your consciousness. Notice that smile that spreads across your face as you recognize, wow, a great teaching is just taking place.
Sure. That's great. And, a healer and a hero are not the words that the general public has when they think of salespeople, right? So what a great mindset shift to go from, schmuck, to go from thief, whatever the negative word is that people tend to connect with. I love healer and hero. Those are awesome replacements.
It's true. Can I tell people how they can get my free gift?
Absolutely. Love it.
So I have my Rapid Sales Accelerator. It's loaded with value. My trainer and coach told me, don't give this much away. You're batshit crazy. But I do it because you have no reason to believe me if you don't.
Sure.
So if you want to improve your sales by 30% or more in 90 days, do it for free. Go grab my Rapid Sales Accelerator. You can consume the whole thing in about 30 minutes of your time. Just go to paulrossbook.com, paulrossbook.com. And as you go there, see how excited you get as you find yourself watching that testimonial from a guy by the name of Caleb Jones. I helped him with both of his companies that were already doing 7 figures. And it'll blow your mind.
Wow, that's great. So it's paulrossbook.com is the place to go. It's a free 90, what'd you say it takes about 30 minutes to go through?
Yeah, I think it'll take about 30 minutes to go through, maybe 45 if you really want to get it. But sure. One of the things I've learned in selling is people want fast even before they want free, because money is time is money. So I designed it to be quickly consumed.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you so much. If someone wants to get in touch with you, Paul, what's the best way? Is there a spot on that paulrossbook.com website to connect with you?
You know what? Okay. Here's what you do. Send me an email, Paul@Speaker Paul Ross, with the subject line apply. And I mean no disrespect. Only do it if you're already doing at least 7 figures, and you're open to really a completely different way of doing things, and you're not satisfied with being excellent. You want to go into the stratosphere.
Sure.
I mean no disrespect.
Yep.
If you're not that and you email me, I'll just write you back. Bless your heart. Do well.
Perfect.
I apologize if I come across as arrogant. I just believe in what I'm doing. And I've seen the impact when I work with my VIPs. I've seen the impact. And it's not just putting money in the bank. You're responsible. If you're a sales leader or you're a business owner, you owe it to the people who are earning money from your competence to be at your super best.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing this.
And I want you on my podcast, you genius.
Love it. Absolutely. Hey, just say the word. I'll be more than happy to hey, I have 30 years of experience just like you. So we'll be between the both of us, we can probably solve world hunger. So
okay, we'll try that.
So thank you so much for hanging out with us. And again, can't wait to keep learning. And again, go to paulrossbook.com and pick up your free course.
Rapid Sales Accelerator.
Give it a shot. And then if that resonates, reach out to Paul and you guys can talk about next steps. So thanks again for hanging out, and can't wait to keep learning from you.
Thank you. Peace.